Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Cristiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs in New York City and the Hamptons, and we are coming to you from the LTV studio in Wainscott. My friend, the artist, Daniel Pollera, is here to speak with us today, and he comes all the way from Baldwin Harbor, New York. He also has a home in East Quogue, and he splits his time between both. So
Great.
welcome, Danny.
Thank you very
so
much for having
coming.
me. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's a pleasure. We had to do a redo, but it's
okay.
It'll be fun.
It's good.
So Danny's a local landscape artist. Would you call
Yes.
yourself a landscape
Yes.
artist?
Yeah, that's basically what I am, a landscape artist. It's usually void of figures, because I want to put the viewer into the painting.
And you started at a very young age. How old were you when you started painting?
Well, I gravitated to the water at a young age, and I think if I remember correctly, I believe it or not, picked up the brushes when I was 12 years old and started dabbling with oils.
So you were hooked right away?
Yeah, as far back as I can remember, yes, I was hooked. Yeah, that was my thing. That I really connected with it. But
you gave it up, and you got your captain's license,
Right.
and you for 15 years you didn't do any painting at all.
Yeah, what happened was, a time in my life came where I had to make a living, and it was very difficult to become a fine art painter and actually make enough money to support yourself. So I dropped the brushes, but I never gave up the lure of the sea and the water. That really, that's the passion and the catalyst for what I do.
And so what motivated you to come back 15 years later?
Interesting. We took a trip to Block Island based on the fact that, I did a lot of fishing. I heard about Block. I've never been there, and a couple of people have told me, you should really go see this beautiful oasis. It's 18 miles, southeast of Montauk and 9 miles off the coast of Rhode Island. It's part of the state of Rhode Island.
So you never been to Block Island before this time?
No, I've never been there. This was later on. It was probably the late 80s, early 90s that I took a trip with the family to Block to visit, and it was spectacular. What a beautiful oasis that island is. It really ignited my, interest and passion to maybe visit painting again. I had some, coercing from a friend of my mom's who was an interior designer, and because I was going to buy a print, I wasn't going to do a painting, and she says, "No, Dan, you should do the painting."
You want to buy a print for what?
Oh, Block Island.
You were going to buy
a print of Block Island. Yeah, I wasn't going to paint Block.
She nudged you to paint your
Yeah,
own.
well, just to view the beauty that reminded me of the trip we made. But she convinced me that I should pick up the brushes and,
Who was this
do
again?
a painting. She's an interior designer. She's gone. She's passed on. Her name was Connie Sabasco. In fact, her brother was a abstract impressionistic painter from the 50s. His name was Angelo Ippolito.
Right.
So there was a lot of art involvement in her life and in her family. So she must have saw something in me and really pushed me to pick up the brushes and start. And that was the beginning of a new I guess, frontier for me.
And then you just ran with it again.
Yeah, I started...
You're self-taught, though, primarily, right?
Yeah, I'm primarily self-taught. I'm almost all self-taught. And what happened at that time was, I started to paint. I connected with my old art high school teacher.
Right.
She was living in Merrick at the time, and she was doing murals. And she actually asked me if I would help her with this huge mural, historical mural for the Roslyn Savings Bank. It was 14 by 30 foot. And I was, painting with her evenings to try to develop this piece for her, that was going to the museum.
So did this happen right after you had come from Block Island?
It was probably 2 or 3 years later, because I was starting to find out
So you got your feet wet again painting.
Got my feet wet again.
And then she showed up in your life. So it was kind of like an omen.
Yes, exactly. Serendipity. What will be, will be.
I find that fascinating. A lot of the people that I've been interviewing, they all have pivotal moments like this that bring them back, or things they couldn't do, and then they find out something else that they can do. It's just fascinating to find out how
Yeah, the paths of life.
Yeah, and how things that we don't expect show up to steer us in different directions.
Exactly.
But I didn't mean to digress. So you're working on this mural with, what's her name again?
I was working with Frances Norris Wright. She was originally a portrait painter, very, very well respected portrait painter, and she gravitated to doing murals. So that was her thing, the murals. And this was an historical mural. She did over a year of research before she did the mural, because all the people that had to be placed in this mural had significance to do with the town of Roslyn dating way back. And she did that whole sketch and preliminary sketches, and then it was a 6-section mural that was 14 by 30 foot. So she had canvases, which we actually stretched in her studio, put them to the wall. We were up on scaffolds, and we were painting each panel that was tied in together. So I worked with her over a year on that before it was transported to the bank to be pieced together, which I helped with also, and hung on the wall, and still there today.
And it still lives there today.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
cool.
it is. Yeah, that
Cool.
was really nice. Yeah, so that was the beginning.
Yeah. So Danny is besides being, a landscape. Would you call yourself a landscaper?
Yes, yes.
A landscape
primarily
artist?
landscape and seascape painter.
He's also done posters. His works have been made into posters. They're in several museums, and you also illustrated the book cover, right?
Yeah, that was a different turn for me. I mean, I got contacted by HarperCollins in New York City. This was back, I think, around, the turn of the century, maybe 2001 or 2. I'm not sure exactly when. And they were interested in one of my posters that I had done. It was called A Summer Place, and it was out it was published. It was out in the field, and they wanted me to do that piece and incorporate the subject matter of a book. It was called 12 Times Blessed, and Jacqueline Mitchard, she wrote the book. She also wrote The Deep End of the Ocean, which they made a movie out of, and it starred Michelle Pfeiffer. So I was pleased to go into New York City, sit down with them, and develop, this book cover. They commissioned me to do the painting for it.
Oh, well, we have a picture of this book cover. Here it is.
That's the book, yeah.
12 Times Blessed.
12 Times Blessed. And Jacqueline, she actually emailed me one time. She says, "Well, Dan," she says, the cover was gorgeous. I wish my story in the book was as good as what you did on the cover." So I guess she didn't get as much response and wasn't as happy with the story as she would have anticipated.
Well,
but that was fun anyway.
You outshone her, I guess.
Well, it wasn't meant to be that way, but it ended up that way.
So we also have some more of your picture. We have a few of your pictures. Let's show them to the viewers and talk about them. What's this first one? Oh, wow.
Ah, yeah, that's the Southampton Boathouse.
Wow.
Doesn't exist anymore. I took some photos, and I did my own interpretation, I mean,
Now, how big is something like that? Let's see that again. Put it back.
That painting, if I remember correctly, was approximately 30 by 46. I'm taking a guess at it.
Is that the approximate size of most of your paintings?
No, they vary. They vary. The
they're all
smaller ones are 11, 14. They go up to 48 by 60. But this particular boathouse is gone. Sandy claimed it. It was there for years in Southampton. And, it's sorry to see them go. It was an iconic piece there in Southampton.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
What's the next one?
Oh, light tips.
Wow.
Yeah, that was during the beach during one evening in late fall. The north wind was blowing the tips off the waves, and the sunlight just sparkled as it hit the spray. And it was just kind of a pretty thing that I wanted to photograph and capture in a painting. It didn't last too long, but it was enjoyable while
Now,
it was
when you
there.
do something like that, do you photograph it and then paint and do both together, or do you just do it live? Which?
No, I photograph and paint most of the time because, for me, my process, and I build up a lot of layers on the linen or the canvas. It would take too long. It would change. The only way I would do, a small painting would be as a study for informational purposes. A lot of people do that. But for the most part, you gather a lot of information over the years as far as what you could incorporate into a piece and how you could adjust that to become a painting rather than a photograph. So my photographs, they're references, and I take them back to the studio, and sometimes I use a small portion of the photograph and maybe only the composition. And then I would create the light in the painting just make it into a painting that's going to be appealing to the viewer.
So when you, like this piece that we just looked at,
Right.
you took a photograph of the location and then go back to the studio, or do you work in the location with the photograph?
No, I worked in the studio.
Okay.
I took a photograph.
But you do that the same all the time, or is there...
More or less all the time, yeah. And I bring them back and I mold them over, and like I said just recently, I'll look at the photograph and sometimes I'll use portions of it. The photograph is great, I love what it's doing, but it's not a painting. So then I use my artistic talents and artistic license sometimes, so to speak, and create a painting. That's alluring to the viewer, you know, and it captures a feeling and a mood through the light. Sometimes I make up the light, it doesn't even exist in the painting, and I create it from my head and use the composition from the photograph as a starting point.
Right.
Yeah, and then create the whole piece.
That's very exciting to...
It is, and that didn't happen in the beginning. In the beginning stages, you know, you're more or less learning how light works and how the paints work, but being a self-taught artist, this develops over the years. It developed for me, you know, and at this particular stage of my career, I'm very, very lucky that I could do this, you know, because I could do more creating than just looking at a photograph and you copy the photograph.
Right,
because,
right.
you know, you want to create the piece. It has to be part of you. You know, and that's really what the artist does. They paint it's their personality, their passion, and it's a signature of themselves.
So we have some more of your works. What else do we have here? What's next? What's this one?
This is the Goodwin Bay House on a sunny day.
Wow.
These bay houses, you know, they dot the salt marshes, mostly in western Long Island. They were mostly turn of the century built. Moonshiners used to store some of the booze during Prohibition in there, and fishermen used them. They harvest salt hay, and they're very rustic, very primitive. And there's a handful of them that still exist out there today.
I can see where you really strive to have peaceful settings, because they're all tranquil and peaceful.
Yeah, that's what I strive to, you know, and just putting yourself out in this environment is peaceful to begin with. And when nobody is around and it's void of people, it becomes it's serenity, you know. There's an intimacy with the viewer, myself being when I'm out there with the boat photographing, and nature, you know, because that's what it's all about for me.
You have a website where people can come look at some of your work.
Yes,
and what
yes.
is it? What is it?
DanielPollera.com.
DanielPollera.com.
And they can view works on there, and you know, they could purchase through the galleries that are listed.
Let's see some more. Ooh, that looks like the sun is setting there or something.
Yeah, that's all the way out in East Hampton, and they call that the house on stilts. It was sitting in an old fishing community. Back in the day, this house actually was, I think, 40 or 100 feet up past the shoreline on the sand. And as time went on, I don't know, the geography changed and the waters changed, and now it sits 30 feet from the shoreline. And it's not occupied, it's kind of abandoned, but it was utilized by fishermen, you know, out there in, you know, East Hampton to store their equipment and utilize it as a, I guess, place to just operate out of, you know, while they were using that area.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, Dick Cavett made a comment about your works, and
Yeah,
he said he called
Dick.
you one of his favorite paintings. Is that what he said?
He called me
exceptional.
his favorite paint applier.
Paint applier? Is that what he said?
That came from Dick. He was a great guy. I mean, I was very, very pleased to go out there. You know, and,
he's a character. I like.
Oh,
him
he's
very
a great
much.
guy. Great guy. Really is. Really is.
So does he have one of your paintings?
Yes, he does.
Oh, cool.
Yes, he does. I was invited through a letter that my wife wrote to Dick Cavett, stating that my husband's an artist on the East End. He loves your house, Tick Hall, out in Ditch Plains, and would love just to go there one day to photograph the porch and the view, so we could utilize it for his paintings. And we got a responsive, actually, I got a call from his property manager and said, I don't know what you did or what your wife wrote, but he approved it. And you're more than welcome to come to the house, Tick Hall here, as long as I'm here. So we did. We arranged to go there. It was around the end of December, crystal clear.
Was this
beautiful
before
day.
it burned down or after it burned down?
This was after it burned down.
So you got to see the whole fabulous renovation.
Yeah,
of the house
they renovated that house down to the warped floorboards.
I heard, and then recreated it just like it was.
Recreated it. It was spectacular. That place is a jewel. It is so special. The location and the light, and it was fabulous. Then we met with Dick
And it's for
later
sale,
on.
viewers, by the way, if you want to buy something
Yes,
fabulous.
it is. Yes, it is. Must be a lot of maintenance to keep that house going based on its location.
Oh, it does cost a lot. I understand that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we have some more of your works. Yes, we have a few more.
Yeah, that's the Passalacqua Bay House. Sits on Meadow Island, which is back west across from where Jones Inlet is. And that house is gone as well. Sandy claimed the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you know, these houses were really frequented quite a bit by not only fishermen, but just in the heyday of people enjoying that environment out there. In fact, behind this house, at one time, they said there was a hotel. And back in the 20s, you know, I could just see them in the hotel playing the piano at night because you can't get to this place other than by boat.
Right.
And, you know, during Prohibition in the 20s, of course, bootleggers were bringing in the booze through the inlet of Jones Inlet, and the smaller boats would bring them to these houses where they would store and distribute. You know, it was like just a rum runner environment back in the day, but it must have been really something to see when in the heyday that these houses were very well occupied.
Yeah. This one looks like there's a storm going on in the background.
Yeah.
Was that what was happening? And then
Yeah.
you created the light more bright in the front? Is that
I
what you did?
created this environment. This lighting I created. The photograph I have was on a bright sunny day, but I've been out in the water so much on the boat that there are days where we're fishing out there and it's gorgeous and sunny and our front approaches, and what you'll see is dark skies in the distance, and they're approaching you, and that's what this is, the dark sky behind you. But yet the sunlight,
was still...
it did not encompass the sunlight and cover it yet, so the light is still lighting up the house, but yet what's coming, the approach of it, is just behind the house.
It's cool.
Kind of an eerie
It's really
thing,
cool.
but it was exciting.
Okay, what else? We have more, don't we?
Yes, this is a house that sits...
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, this is it's a beautiful setting. I did some, you know, manipulating with this particular piece.
With the sky?
The sky was basically there in the photo I took, but I removed some of the railing and I put the chairs there to give it some, you know, human element, a little more intimacy. It's not so sterile. It's over in Moriches area, looking out to Seatuck Cove. This is a gorgeous painting. Right now it's at the RJD Gallery in Bridgehampton.
How big is it?
And this is a huge piece. It's 48 by 60, big for me. And they have it for sale there. It'll probably be, you know, exhibited in their window over the summertime. But it's a spectacular piece. It's a statement piece for anybody that wants a large painting.
Where's the gallery again?
Galleries in Bridgehampton, the RJD Gallery,
Okay, yeah.
Richard D'Amato's New Gallery in Bridgehampton. Spectacular gallery, and if anybody gets a chance, it's definitely a place to visit. This is some exquisite work.
How many more paintings do we have? How many?
Oh, that was similar. That's the Goodwin Bay House again on a more foreboding, darker sky day. Again, I created the lighting. I thought it was a nice contrast with that white house, a little reflecting in the water. So these are paintings that I take photographs of for compositional purposes, like I said earlier, and I create the light, I create the mood. It's from my experiences, and it's my vision.
And your work is easily recognizable. I mean, you see something and you know that's Daniel.
Right,
Pollera.
signature work, signature
Oh,
work.
isn't that pretty?
Now this painting recently has just been added to the permanent collection of the Long Island Museum in Stony Brook.
Oh, that is, you know, that's so
Thank you.
exciting. I just want to stop it because we actually had to do this show over because we had a glitch with the sound, and we couldn't schedule the next week because Danny had to go to the museum for the guy to see this painting.
Right.
And since we have done the last show and come back, he's now been accepted into...
Yes, it was exciting.
What's the name of the museum again?
It's the Long Island Museum. They're based in Stony Brook. It's a 9-acre facility with 3 buildings. And they really have a great extensive collection of a lot of Long Island artists.
Yes, so you were in a small exhibition at the museum before that.
Prior
the curator saw something of yours he liked.
Yes.
And he brought you in.
They invited me to visit the collection.
Something different.
Yes.
That they
So it was exciting. I viewed the vault. They have a vault down there, and it's the first time I've ever been in the vault of a museum. And to go down and see their collection, that was quite an experience. They had Robert Dash, down there, Jane Fischler and Jane Wilson, and also Fairfield Porter, among others. But great, credible museum, extensive collection of William Sidney Mount. That's their prime artist that they've collected in the area. And now I just joined the group. I'm part of their permanent collection, so I was very, very excited and happy.
So besides being in the Long Island Museum, you're in Guildhall.
Yes.
You have what piece do you have in Guildhall?
One of the porches I painted at Dick Cabot's house. It's called Ditch Plains, Sunset at Ditch Plains. That's in Guildhall.
And then you have something at the Parish.
Right. I have Approaching Winter Solstice. That's in the Parish Art Museum. Their permanent collection.
And you also spoke at the Parish last year, did you?
Yes, I think 2 springs ago, Pachakacha. That was an experience to speak. It was a gauged presentation of your work, giving 20 seconds to speak on each image, and they would flip them. You had to go to the next one, and you had 20 images.
Oh, that would be a challenge for you.
So that was challenging, yes, because you had to, speak and stop, and then go to the next one. So it was all gauged with a timing segment there. So that was interesting, but challenging.
So
how
many pieces did you talk about?
20.
20.
20, and I put it together in a progression. I did it from west to east. I started with paintings that were to the western part of Long Island, and I progressed all the way to Montauk, where the last 2 pieces I talked about were Dick Cabot's porch on the east and west side, and both of those paintings are part of Guildhall and the Parish's permanent collections. So I thought it was a nice way to end the presentation.
Oh, it sounds like it was a nice show.
Yeah, it was exciting. I enjoyed it.
So did you have anything this season that coming up in the new season, 2018? Any shows that are you're
right
looking forward
now?
To at the moment?
I'm painting for 3 galleries that represent me, primarily focusing on the the RJD Gallery, which is in Bridgehampton. And I'm going to be incorporating a different flavor of some of the works, some of the paintings that will reflect our environment out here, the beaches, with a twist to it, especially with the lighting that it's recognizable out here, instead of all darker pieces. So they're going to get a different group of work, and they'll have it in their gallery. And I think that if anybody's out here, it's worthy of taking a look in that gallery to see some really spectacular works.
But I wanted, I didn't mention, you have a company, Fairfield Art Publishing, that does posters of your work?
Back in the mid-'90s, Fairfield Art Publishing, which was based out of Soho, New York.
Are they still in Soho?
They had moved to Brooklyn, and now they're in New Jersey.
Okay. They still do posters?
They still represent me as my publisher. Excuse me. They actually were the launching pad for my posters back then, and it's a great venue to get yourself recognized as an artist, put your work out there, and they did their job.
Well, if someone wants one of your pieces and they can't afford something expensive, they can buy a poster, which is cool.
Right, exactly.
It's wonderful.
They're very affordable.
When we were, I just want to share with you.
Sure.
I've been doing the show now. I think we've done over 30 of them, and we're brainstorming for who to bring on. And I was talking to Maria. Maria said, "Oh, have Danny Pollera."
Yeah, Maria.
What?
Oh, Maria. I've known Maria so long. We met back in 1996. When I first got my first cover with Dan's Papers, and we've been friends ever since. We connected. Maria, she's a great person. She was a great inspiration for me, for my artwork, as far as encouragement goes. And
she's a big fan of yours.
And she's a big fan of mine. Maria's great. She's fabulous.
Yeah. She keeps calling me, when are you going to do Danny? When are you going to do Danny? She goes, I want to see Danny.
Yeah, she's great. She's down in Florida now in a warmer environment, and good for her. And then she'll be back in the summer, and we get to go to the beach on occasion, and we still meet with her, and still stay friendly.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So this the first show, you have a show coming up this summer, you said?
No
you
shows exactly set in stone right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, it's quite okay. I am painting though for the galleries. Like I say, primarily I'm working on a body of new work for the Richard D'Amato Gallery in Bridgehampton.
Right.
And I'm finishing up a few commission pieces from clients that are out of state that I've had for a long time. David Topping is one of them. I don't know if anybody recognizes the name. David Topping, his father was Dan Topping. He used to own the New York Yankees baseball team back in the 50s and 60s. And he commissions me, I don't really do this anymore, but when he gets a new boat, his new yacht, he commissions me to do a portrait of it. He wants it in his house or his studio, whatever he has there. So it's a new 109-foot yacht now. I just did a commission piece for that, yes.
So we're running out of time. I'm
Sure.
just curious, in terms of the discipline, do you paint every day?
I paint every day.
So
I paint every morning and every evening.
Every morning and every evening?
Yeah.
So how long a session?
Probably about an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening, which is enough to get good quality work out, you know, without, you know, pushing it too much, you know. So I want the work to be at a good level, good quality level.
Danny, thank you so much for coming
my
on.
pleasure.
We're running out of time,
Sure.
and it was great seeing you, and it was a great showing the viewers your work. So
Thank you.
tune in to Spotlight on the Arts again.
Thank you.